the transfer portal, names are already going into the transfer portal today. There was an Appalachian State offensive lineman that put his name in the transfer portal. I was just scrolling through social media. I saw that today. There have been names yesterday. This is going to start ramping up while Penn State is in the middle of spring football. These things affect recruiting. They affect numbers. They affect the team. So I figured we should have a conversation with the people who talent acquisition is talent acquisition. These guys have the inside information. They have the perspective, more importantly, on how Penn State's going to pursue all of these things, because it feels like a delicate balance. And I know we've talked about this a little bit before, but Ryan, I just would like you to set the scene for us for the portal. What are you expecting from Penn State next week? How are you expecting them to address this when the portal opens the day after they have practice?
Well, honestly, I'm not expecting a lot, if I'm being blunt. Straight shooter, right? Isn't that what we were just talking about?
Yes.
Do you expect a lot, Sean? I look, outgoing, yeah, there might be some after the blue-white game, but the spring portal has been a dud, I feel like, for 2+ years now. And sure, there may be some guys who pop in, but the way a lot of these NIL contracts and things work, like the talent that often goes in the portal in the spring are guys who really don't fit Penn State, if I'm putting it bluntly. They are looking for money. There are different things oftentimes. Now, there you will find different examples of guys that work, and obviously Penn State's gotten some guys out of the spring portal. But, to get a stud wide receiver or something like that would really pop and be big, I think the chances of it are low. Maybe a defensive tackle, but again, like if you're a quality defensive tackle going in the portal in the spring, you probably have a feel for already where you're going. I think that's probably the biggest thing. And two, it's going to cost a lot of money. And now Penn State will certainly, they have money to do that stuff, but some of the figures that are out there just don't align with how the importance that Penn State puts on not screwing up their locker room. So,
or the quality of the talent, right? So Fitz, this is something you always talk about when it comes to players in the spring portal. These might be guys that didn't win a camp battle. So if you're not winning a camp battle at another school, Penn State's I think they're a top 5-10 program. They're the likelihood, unless it's coming from a position where you're coming from a school, the Alabama or Ohio State wide receiver rooms from like 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago, where it was 4 first-round draft picks. Maybe that's the situation, but again, that might fall into what Ryan was talking about of price tags and all of those things. So I guess what's your initial view of this as well?
Yeah, I think it's more about the talent, really. Like I understand the delicate balance of the locker room, but also we talked about this on the show on Tuesday. Some of those positions, like wide receiver, it's kind of been thrown out the window because you need success, you need results, and I think that's really what it goes into more than anything. So you still, like, just because you have money, just because there are players out there, you still have to spend wisely. I mean, this isn't a situation where you just kind of sign a 1-year deal with a guy that's, you probably pay him a little bit more and then you just don't get anything on the back end. Like, I think that's really what you look at. And I agree with Ryan, the guys in the spring portal, and there have been exceptions. Absolutely. I mean, they got Chop Robinson out of the spring portal a couple of years ago. They got O'Davian Collins out of the portal in the spring a couple of years ago. So there is possibility, but they have to be, I don't want to call them unicorns, but they have to be, very special situations. So you've got guys that are coming out, and I really think the vault for portal guys is the winter. You're coming off the season, you got fresh tape. You get a chance to go through spring practice, which is a big deal. Like these guys that if they sign a guy from the spring portal will not have spring practice. We saw with Dante Cephas a couple of years ago. It doesn't always work out that well when you bring in a guy late. So you've got, excuse me, an opportunity to do some things, but I don't see it. I mean, you look at last year, the guys that left Penn State in the spring, Davon Townley, London Montgomery, Malik McLean, King Mack, of course, came back, Malik Mega, and Keandre Lambert-Smith. I mean, Keandre Lambert-Smith's the only one that moves the needle in that group, really. So you've got an opportunity to, I don't want to say clear out your roster, but sort of reshuffle the deck. You've got a lot of guys that are on the roster, and they'd like to keep all those walk-on or a bunch of those walk-ons around. They'd like to keep a bunch of those scholarship guys around because you're not sure what's going to happen with the house settlement entirely, with the flexibility on that 105 number. So yeah, I think it's a unique situation, and you really cannot. I would not pin hopes on a guy coming in the spring and being a big time player. Like it's happened before, especially with Chop. But at the same time, it's I think that's more exception to the rule, and that's kind of where we lean on that one.
So it is interesting. The thought in my head when framing this conversation was, if you're bringing guys in to visit, I mean, I assume they're still going to do a little bit of research on some of these guys, make sure that they know kind of the facts and figures behind everything. If you're bringing guys in for a visit, does that affect the roster at that position? Like, I guess is there a balance of having to not prematurely kick guys into the portal just because you're bringing guys in at their position? Is that even a part of the conversation or the equation in this?
I think the conversation here is, okay, so Z-Man in the chat wants a defensive tackle. Okay, there's a lot of defensive tackles on the roster. Say you spend for a defensive tackle and you've got backups going for $500,000, $600,000, whatever they wanted this offseason. That was absurd. You bring him in, and what if he's on the same level as Ty Blanding or one of those redshirt freshmen? All of a sudden, like that's where the problem comes in. The guy comes in and he's good, and he's if he's Chop and he comes in, hell yeah, spend like the guys around him. You're making everyone better. If he's not, and we've seen guys that have come in and they're not what you thought they were, or what Penn State maybe thought they were, or I think nationally we've seen Dante Cephas ranked really high, Julian Fleming ranked really high, all those guys, but they're not what you thought they were, and some of those signs were pretty apparent pretty quickly. Then that's a problem. Like that's kind of where you find yourself, especially in the spring portal when you've only got a couple of months till the next season, and then you've got to protect yourself against the portal because schools are going to come poaching. Schools are going to come look at positions where you're battling and likely to have a glut of talent. You look at where Penn State's at in the offensive line, and they're incredibly healthy, and they're incredible. Like that room from a like a mindset perspective, like that group collectively is very healthy. But there's a lot of guys there. So you see a lot of guys there. That's maybe a window to wiggle your way in if you're an opposing school, and you can see them coming after some players. So, you're kind of fighting on a couple of fronts here, and it's probably pretty exhausting. I'm not going to lie. But the upside can be great, or it can really, kind of stab you in the ribs there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it feels like this is a dry well in terms of what you guys have just laid out. Of there's not going to be a ton of intrigue from the perspective of bringing guys on campus, cycling through, trying to find the right fits and those things. But Ryan, any last thoughts about kind of the portal and the setup for Penn State? Because they have, in a way, set this up where the window closes after the spring game. So is there messiness on the back end, or how do you view this from Penn State's perspective of managing its roster of what Fitz just laid out of poaching and kind of those things?
Well, we still don't know the scholarship number from the NCAA, which is another interesting tidbit of all this.
Is that coming in the next week or two as well? Like,
I don't think so. No, not officially. But I don't expect. I don't expect a lot of outgoing. I don't expect a lot of incoming. Yeah, I'm not saying that there won't be one or two here or there on either side, but if you're on this roster right now, well, unless you're a junior who's third string, something that really surprised you or upset you, whatever it may be, like, why would you want to leave to start? Like, you're on a team right now that should genuinely compete for a national championship this year. And, if you spent multiple years here, like this is an opportunity that Penn State's been hoping for and aiming for a long time. And on the other end, I mean, like when you guys were talking, I'm on the page right now trying to find like last year's best receivers in the portal for spring and all that. Like Silas Bolden is like the best one I could find at the top of my head as far as the talent that won in there. He ended up going to Texas. He had 20 receptions last year. He was previously at Oregon State. There might be somebody I'm missing. I haven't got to scroll through all of it, but like again, like the talent that's there, isn't what I would say is going to make a difference for Penn State this year, especially when you already have Kieran Hudson and other guys, Devontae Ross.
Well, we'll see how it all plays out, of course, here at BlueWhiteIllustrated.com and on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel here. The best way to get this information is to join us over at the site for $1. You get a week of access to try us out, and then you can subscribe for a year if you want to after that first week. But we've got something very special going on right now through all that information. Here's the thing. It's like you want to get in, you want to get the portal information, you want to get the recruiting information, you don't want to wait. That's the best thing to do. But I do want to give a thank you to the people that have taken a chance on us here on the YouTube channel as well. Maybe a little incentive for the 52% of the people that watch this show that aren't subscribed to actually hit the button, which is a free act. Not only is it free for you to hit the button to say subscribe and just throw a little bit of token support behind us, which helps us out tremendously on this end, I'm going to give something to you, potentially. Everyone who subscribes, new subscribers between now and the Blue-White weekend, we're going to pick 5 people. Those people are going to win a subscription for a year to the site. So check us out here and BlueWhiteIllustrated.com for all that great information, content, and conversation. Like, that's what I do. Shooting the stuff, talking about backup quarterbacks, giving you some football insights and things like that. It's a conversation. It's a relationship here on the site. We appreciate everyone who's here in the chat, like Steve, who was, I think, here before I was. He might have been here before the show was actually live on YouTube.